Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Nanny. Tonight, we are going to be talking with a set of new parents, and we're talking about parenting styles and their influences. We have Carolyn Boyle and Trapper Lolly, and they are new parents to a 10 and a half month old.
Oh,
And we are going to talk with them about uh, being a parent. But first, I'm going to find myself on Facebook and see so I can answer your questions that you may have. There I am. Okay. So, hi, Rebecca. Hi, Deidre. Hi, Jana. How are you all? Let me turn my volume down. There we go. Now, before we get started, I know you all didn't know this, but I want you all to introduce yourselves. I've already said your names. Introduce yourselves and give us a fun fact.
I'm Caroline Boyle. I'm 36, and Decker has been our first son. And if you hear him, luckily, Angela has helped us through this whole process. Can you say hi, Decker?
Are you blowing kisses?
I'm from West Virginia, and we've lived in Texas for about 4 years.
Yep, my name is Trapper Lolly. Caroline and I have been married about 6 years now. And this little guy has been so much fun for us, and we couldn't have done it without Angela. So,
Well, thank you. So tell us, the first question is, before you had little Mr. Decker, what did you think your parenting style would be?
I thought I was going to be so laid back. It was going to be easy. The baby cries, you give him a bottle, then the baby goes to sleep. And I just thought it would be easy and I'd be laid back and no stress. And I'll say that did not turn out to be the way my parenting style was at all. Angela can attest to that. What did you?
I didn't think that she was going to be low stress, to be fair. I don't know. I was just more nervous than anything. I didn't know that I even had thought anything about a parenting style.
So you had no clue
I
what
had
you wanted to
absolutely
be?
no clue. I was just trying to make it through the day for me and him.
You want to take
Yeah.
We already have to do an exit. We'll be back. We'll be back.
So, when you say low key, low stress, you thought it was just going to be feeding the bottle, he's go to sleep, and you'd be sitting around eating bonbons and watching TV?
Pretty much. I mean, I definitely knew, when there's a second child, when there's more than one. My sister had two girls close together, so I knew that like when there was two, it was going to be a lot higher stress. But I was thinking because I had been around my sister when she had one, and there was my other sister, so there's three of us taking care of one baby. And I also didn't take into the account that I don't have any family. All of my family lives on the East Coast, so nobody's within driving distance. And my dad's actually on oxygen, so it's not like my mom could leave him to come help me. So we didn't have that immediate support group that I think would probably help out. But I still did not take into account that I just thought it would be a lot less stress than it is.
Okay. Oh, there's Duke. Now, tell me this. After birth, what did your parenting style end up being? How did it change?
Well, so immediately afterwards, it was panic mode. Always in 911 emergency. Anytime he cried, it was, he would remind me a lot. I will say that he ended up being the more relaxed, calm one. And, I would hear a peep and I'd be like, oh my gosh, we have to get the baby. And, the world was going to end if he was crying. And he would remind me a lot that, it's okay. He's just telling us what he wants. And immediately after birth, I will say for the first few months, I was very high strung. I'm sure that hormones play a part in that. I also didn't know what to expect after birth, how all of that comes into play. But then, just the different stuff of not having your family there and, your husband going back to work. I feel like my parenting style was the complete opposite of what I thought it would be.
So you went from carefree, oh, this is going to be a breeze. There's only one child.
Yes.
I can do this, to, oh my God, what do I do now?
Right. And to kind of, sorry.
You're okay, your parents.
Yes. To kind of add on to that, I had heard from other parents, make sure you have one schedule. So in addition to that, I was really stressing about the schedule. So I'd say, for the first 3 months, I was very high anxiety, always, whatever was wrong with the baby, it had to be fixed immediately. And then since then, with help from our good friend Angela and some other people in the childhood industry, it has, I think, calmed down a lot. So I think I am more laid back, but I still have the if the baby's crying, oh my gosh, what's wrong type thing. But I will say that Trapper's parenting style, he really has remained calm. I think that you would probably agree with that. He definitely reminds me, and he loves to remind me that now would Angela run into his bedroom if he was screaming at night type. And he's right. So, I mean, I do think that we probably have a good mix of parenting style because he is the calm one. And, sometimes I pay attention when he's like, oh, the baby's okay, but he's really sick or something like that. So I think it's ended up working out well for us.
Okay. Now, what type of books, what titles have you read, the books that you've read that helped to influence your parenting style? What?
The main one I read was Baby Wise. And the reason I read that's because I heard from many parents that was great to learn about eating, sleeping schedule. And it kind of touched on, immediately running to the baby. In the first few months, they say, obviously the baby can't self-soothe. Honey, the baby can't self-soothe. But it kind of just touches on to how you want you don't always want to immediately run to your baby or, give in to their every want or need. And so that was the main one that I read. I feel like I maybe started some other ones, but never finished them. But I did finish the Baby Wise front to back. I asked Trapper his, and he said, I read dad blogs, but I don't think he ever read any. I don't think he read any books like front to end. But I have saved quite a few titles as far as disciplining goes. And I kind of saved those so that I'm reading those when it's more, current to the situation. Right now we're not really, discipline's not a factor. So, but I have saved quite a few books. I know like Parenting of Love and Logic. I can't think of the other ones off the top of my head, but I do have quite a list for the disciplining, and I've definitely reached out to you and to other people for advice on when we get to the disciplining part.
Okay. So now, as your child grew from that itty bitty, oh, he's so sweet and tiny and he's so adorable, did your parenting style change? And did you use some of the tips and tricks that your mom or dad or some of your family members, your sister, I know you talked about your sister and how she was instrumental in you all were raising, she had 2 kids together. Did the family have any influences on the way you decided, well, I'm going to raise him like that, or no, I'm not going to do that with my baby?
Well, first off, I definitely did not take any tips and tricks from either one of our parents because, he was having stomach issues and they're like, just lay him on his belly. He'll be fine. He'll just put him in his crib on his belly. And so I was like, no. That was one thing that was really important to both of us was the safe sleep. And I did get a lot of influence from my sister just because I saw, how her girls were and how her first one slept. She had more of a schedule with the first one and how, it was really predictable as far as, when the baby was going to eat, sleep. And I knew right away that that's what I wanted. I wanted him on a schedule. But I could tell with her second one, because it's much harder, the schedule was not there. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, the baby's right here. What was the original question?
That mom brain.
And mom brain
Mom
is
brain.
real. Mom brain is real.
It is real.
Was
Mom
it how it
brain
changed?
is real. So I was asking, did your parents or your sister, I think you pretty much answered it.
So yeah, I mean, my parents and his parents, so much has changed since then. And it was, like, oh, we just did this, and it was all stuff that, isn't really recommended now. And that was a huge concern of mine. So, but I definitely, took a lot of advice and influence from my sister. And, one of the biggest things that she would always try to convey to me was, letting them cry it out for a little bit. And that was the hardest thing for me. And, whenever you came into my life, that was the thing that I had the hardest time with. And, I have gotten with Angela's help, and, my husband, keeping me accountable, it has made a world of difference. So
now, when you said things have changed since then, I know my oldest is 33, just turned 33 this year. And when he was an infant, my mom and my grandmother were there with me, and they put him to sleep on his tummy, turned his head to the side, everything was fine. Never thought about put him on the back. That was nowhere near my radar.
yes.
But now that I am a newborn care specialist, I'm like, and I hear parents say, well, my mom said, well, I'm sorry. And I don't say it like that. I just let them know the benefits and the dangers, the pros and the cons of putting the baby on their back. And even across the little sleep sacks, it says back is best.
Yes.
And so like everybody's saying it, there's a reason for this. So yes, back is best. And there are a lot of things that a lot of sayings that my mom and dad said to me that I'll find myself saying to my children, like, I remember that when I was growing up.
Yes.
He's only 10 months old. Give it some time.
I will say that my mom actually has called me since then, and she has visited us since then, and she sees all of the schedules that have been implemented, and she said, I wish I would have known this when I had 4 kids, and they were getting up all through the night, and so it's kind of funny to see that.
Yeah. So how did watching your friends with their children influence your parenting style?
I definitely had some friends that I was like, I do not want to be that parent. But I definitely noticed, I think the biggest thing that, both of us had talked about before was we saw kids that, parents that had their kids on a schedule and how much it looked like that helped their life, and it helped, the baby's behavior and the baby's development. And I feel like that's the biggest thing that I took away from seeing friends. I do feel like a lot of my friends had maybe older kids, but the ones that had newborns that I had paid attention to, I noticed the schedule, and the sleep was really important to us, getting the sleep. So I wanted to do whatever we could to get them on a schedule.
So speaking of sleep, how did you handle sleep during the first few weeks of life with the baby?
Well, I'll be honest. So my husband was great. He had taken off about 3 weeks, and we got home from the hospital, and I had some health issues before, and we knew before that it was not going to be ideal for me to be getting up. But I did want to breastfeed. So I was getting up, a couple times a night to pump, but I'm just the type that if I got up to feed him, I wouldn't be going back to bed. So we got home, but we knew before that it was important to us to have somebody help us at night, just because we didn't have any family to help us. So, originally we looked, and, we didn't know before, but and if I'm going on, you just cut me off. We didn't really know that there was like a true difference between, the newborn care specialists and, other individuals that call themselves night nannies. So originally we had hired somebody who wasn't a newborn care specialist, and the first 2 weeks were a little bit rough. And we kind of just learned that we learned quickly that we needed somebody that really has experience, that has the credentials, the newborn care specialist, that this is what they do for a living. And we hired a newborn care specialist, and it was a game changer.
I'm so glad you said that, because there are a lot of nannies who try their hand at night nannying and call themselves NCSs, and some of them are good at it, and some of them just go into it for the money. And I always, when nannies approach me about becoming a newborn care specialist or working as a night nanny, I always tell them, get training, because there's a lot of things that you think you know because you work with babies that you really don't know. There's terminology, there's different things that with every baby. I've worked with babies most of my life, and until recently, I had never been with a child who I knowingly had a tongue tie. Had no clue they existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, once I got into the nanny groups back in 2017, and I was just like, oh, that's a thing. And, I keep learning and learning and learning and learning. And I'm a part of several newborn care specialist groups and sleep training. You can't just go in and tell a parent, well, they ask you, why are you doing this? Oh, because it works. Well, why does it work? What is there a study behind it? Is there something that is proven? Can you give me some statistics? If you don't have that and you know nothing about that, it kind of makes you look kind of iffy. And yes, there's a big difference between a newborn care specialist and a someone who is a nanny that's working overnight.
I completely agree. The individual that we particularly had a second day job, and it was actually an office job. So it was not it was not a nanny. Yes, and we quickly learned that her goal was to get sleep for the night and to be out the next day. And I quickly learned that this isn't like how the sleep training is going to go. And once we hired a newborn care specialist, we learned so much, just what we do during the day, how that affects the night's sleep, how the bedtime routine affects the night's sleep. And that was the questions that we had, and the help that they provided, not just being there during the night, but telling us this is what you need to be doing during the day. That was super helpful.
Right. So now I know you said that the NCS, so she had an influence on what you do during the day.
Yes.
And taught you about during the day and at night. Now, what about your nannies? How did they influence your life? your parenting style? Because I guess influencing your life is the correct question, because it goes across the board, not just parenting, but other things that affect you, because it affects your child.
Yes.
And that affects your life too. So
yes.
How did all of that come?
I will say that, both my husband and I, when we've had nannies come into our life that have just become like family. And I will say that Angela is one of those people. And we were so blessed to have Angela come into our life. We were a little bit lost before she came in, and she was there when I was in that first style of parenting, running into my baby's room. And she was in a hard position because I'm that mother that's, still in that postpartum stage, worried about their baby. And, he was at the age where he should be self-soothing. And I don't know how to explain it, but she did such a great job of reassuring me as a mother that I was doing a good job and showing me how I can also, let him soothe on his own and be doing him a service like that. And, I just kind of, when I trust somebody with my kid, of course I'm going to think of them as family. And so, Angela was always super open to any questions I had. And so it just kind of became like, well, what did you do when when your boys get to this age? So I was constantly asking for advice, as far as, just disciplining them like in the future. And then, why is he doing this? That type thing. So I feel that I don't know where we'd be if we didn't have your influence or like some other nannies or newborn care specialists that have been in our lives. To me, it's been life-changing. And I feel like it's done nothing but, be great for our family. And I feel like Decker's benefited immensely.
Good. So how did Decker, were you afraid about I know most parents have pets. I won't say most. Some new parents have pets, and that's their baby until the real human baby comes along. Were you worried about how Duke would interact with the baby, if he would be jealous or, get angry or retaliate? Were you worried about that before the baby got there?
My husband and I differed on this. I was worried because my husband is slightly obsessed with our dog, and our dog is used to having 100% attention at all times. So I knew that this little baby coming home was going to rock his world. And he has been excellent with him, but there was a little bit of a learning curve, and there was a little bit of jealousy. But it's funny to see how the dog has changed too. I mean, he went from a very laid back dog to being very protective of our son. He still does, kind of whine for attention sometimes because he's not getting what he used to. But they have such a funny relationship. It's awesome. So.
Yeah, I know when I was there, I could tell if I was on the floor and I had Decker in my lap, Duke would come and put his head on my other leg, and just go,
Yeah.
I was like, I see you.
Yes.
So, from the beginning, when I got there, Decker was 3 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And during the months, as he started moving and started being able to be a part of Decker's world,
Yes.
because Decker was running things, I did notice that if Decker ever cried, he'd go get one of his toys and just put it in front of Decker.
He still does it.
And I think that's why Decker loves his toys more now than he loves his own, because when he cries, it's like Duke will go get a toy. It's like, okay, here you go. Here's my toy. This is the one that you were after the last time, so I'm gonna let you have it if it'll stop you from crying. Okay, here you go. So it's like almost like he's a caretaker too, that he wants him to be okay. He's doing what he can do to make sure that he's okay.
Yes.
So now my next question is, what is one thing that you have learned as a parent that you would suggest or tell other new parents? The one thing that you've learned so far, or several things, it doesn't necessarily have to be in one. What are important things that you have learned as a new parent that you would want other new parents to know?
Oh, that's tough. I guess the first thing is, you are the parent that your child needs. No matter, you will get tons of advice, whether it's solicited or unsolicited. And, at the end of the day, they are your child. But listen to those people that, in your circle that know what they're doing. And if you need help, reach out. You're not a bad parent if you need to get, night help in there, if you're struggling. And then I guess the other thing would be to, get on a schedule. It's life-changing, but don't stress too much about it. That was one problem I had. It was like we had to be on schedule, and just know that, getting on some type of schedule really allows you to kind of, get back to regular everyday life, but know that that schedule's, going to be changing all the time. I'm not good with change. So, as we had to go from 3 naps to 2 naps, or, adjust nap times or bottle times, that was always hard for me, because I always felt like, and this is how it is the first year of life. As soon as you get used to something, it's time for, he's already moved on to the next stage, and it's time to kind of change that. But yeah, those would be my biggest things. Or, don't be afraid to reach out for help. And, the schedule was really what saved us.
Okay. Now, what are some things as a new parent that you would tell nannies from a new parent's point of view? You're a new parent and you're looking for a nanny, and what would you tell that nanny? What you know now about nannying, what would you tell a nanny that is getting ready to work for a set of new parents? What's your advice to them?
We have no idea what we're doing. Most of the time, or at least in my situation, we have no idea what we're doing. So some of the basic stuff that you think that we may know, in our case, we weren't around a ton of babies before. So one thing that I really appreciated was, there's a way to kind of gently, be like, maybe that's not the best idea. I had things on our car seat. I had like a sound machine and like a toy hooked up, and I didn't know that that wasn't safe. And so for you to have gently said that, but not be like, oh, you need to take that off. That really pointed out to me. And it wasn't like, oh, you need to take that off, you're not doing a good job, being a parent type thing. That was great. And then I also feel like just, kind of being there, like as, a sounding board. Sometimes I feel like sometimes nannies wear many different hats. They're the counselor, or the psychologist, or whatever. But, just that, we have lots of questions we may be afraid to ask. And, when you're in the environment that you feel like you can open up to your nanny, it, at least in my world, it really decreased the stress. And I knew, I could come to you asking you anything. And then the only other thing I would be is, don't be offended if we, maybe ask why we're doing something one way. It's just, maybe we don't know. I mean, like a lot of things I didn't know, and I'd be like, okay, why are we doing this? Or why are we doing this? That would be my big things. I don't know if you have.
And that would be one of the reasons why we take training, so we can tell parents, this is why we do this.
Yeah.
And this is why we do that.
Yes.
Because they're going to ask why. And I've had a lot of parents, when I ask them and I gently coax them into saying, okay, we need to do this, and this is best for the baby. And, because you asked this, let me tell you this. And I'll provide you with information, but it's up to you what you want to do with it. But having the training and having an explanation for the parents, not just saying because it works.
Right. And I
Or
really
because I said so.
yeah, I really appreciated the way that you always presented things. It wasn't like you need to do this, this, and this. You say, I would suggest trying this, or I would suggest not doing that. But it was never, you need to do this, this, this. Because I think sometimes as a parent, that would be hard to,
They're hard to muster.
You're getting parented.
And a lot of parents love Googling things. And if you have terminology that you can give parents, or here's an article, or here's this doctor says this according to the American Pediatric Association, or according to the CDC, or and give them backup information that they can read, because this is their child that we're talking about. Now, some nannies are parents and some of them aren't, but we all get kind of close to the kids. And if somebody on the outside wants to, mess with our kids, we're like, hold up now. Wait a minute, we finna fight now. It's hard. But yeah, we get close to the kids. And as being close to the kids, we want what's best for the kids. And I am the type of nanny, if I'm sitting back and I see something going that I know is going to harm that child, and the parent is getting ready to do something that I know is going to harm that child, I don't just jump in and say, no, don't do that. I kind of slide in there and, hey, what's going on? What are we doing? I try to be as gentle as possible, because like you said, no parent wants to be parented, especially when you're new parents and you're new at this and you're already nervous and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm acting like on the outside, I got this. So it's hard to sit back and, at least for me, to sit back and say, okay, well, I'm just gonna let her try it and see what happens. That's not me. I can't knowingly know what the outcome could possibly be and have seen the outcome in several instances and not say anything, or not try to at least coax you into doing something totally different, or trying it a different way, or if we're going to do this, here's a safer way to do this. And the whole time I'm cringing like, so
Yes.
that's not me. But hold on, we have some comments. Apparently Decker made a big impression. Awesome, adorable, cute.
Oh, thank you. We think so too. Sorry, he had to be extra.
And let's see what else. Misha says that's why it's so important to get the education and the appropriated words, terminology. That's right. Jocelyn says it is important to give medical, scientific, or any type of info with credible backup.
100% agree.
And for parents to, she continued her sentence, for parents to read on their own. She give medical, scientific, or any type of info with credible backup for parents to read on their own. And Jocelyn also says, me too, my conscience just wouldn't allow me, but we have to find a polite way to deliver the message. Exactly. We have to find a way to deliver the message. Now,
I will say our newborn care specialist, when she first started, she did bring me some handouts, and those were read and they were super helpful. And I really did appreciate those. So
I'm more of a hands-on person.
Yes.
And I like to use, the teacher in me likes to use illustrations or stories of my own children, things that I have done with my own children, mistakes that I have made, to convince parents that this is not a good idea, or maybe you want to try this, or this is why I know so much about this subject, because I've been through it. I've been there, I've done that, got the t-shirt, now it's a dust rag.
So we had both. So the newborn care specialist at night, she would lead the articles, and that was super helpful because she wasn't there. Like, we weren't really conversating with her during the day. And then when I had you and I hear the real life stories, you know, and I'm able to conversate with you during the day and interact, and really feel like I have a partnership with you, that both styles were really helpful. I mean, yeah, if you're getting conversation during the day with the nanny, that I feel like the real life experience was super, super helpful.
Now, what you said just a minute ago was so important, the partnership. I always say that I work with parents, not for parents, because this is a team. We are working together to raise little productive citizens. No matter what they want to be when they grow up, we just need to make sure they grow up and grow up with respect and grow up with a purpose, and even their little determined spirits. We have to head that determination in the right direction, because sometimes they want to go left and we're like, okay, let's go back over here to the right. So we have to direct that those little willpowers, you know, my will is stronger than yours. I like to say that I want to break your will and not your spirit. That will to do the wrong thing, create a will to do the right thing, but the spirit that's based behind it, keep that spirit alive, because that's what's going to make them excel, and that's what's going to make them be great at whatever they do. Excuse me. But the partnership, it's so important to have a partnership with the parents that you work with. It's so important to work together in communication. I cannot stress enough communication through text message, through email, through pictures. And if you don't send pictures to your parents right now, please start.
Send them. We love them.
Please start, especially new parents. And let me ask you this. When your child started hitting milestones, there were some times that I would send pictures and sometimes I wouldn't. And I would let you discover it on yourself. Which one were you more preferable to? The finding out on my own that he can do something new, or thank you for sending this picture, and then feeling guilty, oh, I missed that.
Really, I liked both of them. I feel like there was, when he rolled, you sent that to me and I was like, oh gosh, but that was his like first major milestone, you know, like the first major one. I was like, oh geez, I missed it. But that was the only one I loved, you know, both of them. It didn't bother me like if he hit a milestone with you, and I feel like you knew the more of what to, you know, do to get the development out of him. You know, you were really interacting with him in this way. So I kind of liked that, because then I learned how I needed to interact with him to kind of get him to keep doing the same thing, you know, whether it was scooting on his belly or, so I
definitely a good scooter.
Yes, he has a good army scoot.
That low crawl, that army low crawl. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. He was, especially running after Duke. That was funny. But is Trapper available?
Yes, let me, Trapper.
We always get.
I'm sorry we ruined. I thought for sure that Becker.
No,
I had snacks
just
and entertainment. Can you come out and say? Hold on 1 second.
Okay. While she's going to get him, like I was saying, it's very important to act as a partner with parents, and not as you're the employer, you're the employee. It's a partnership. There's a thin line between business and familiarity. So, oh, we got a bottle. So,
Finally calm down. You see your girlfriend? Is that Gigi? Is that Gigi? Can you wave hi?
I'm busy eating. Busy. Okay, so Dad, This
Yeah.
is a rarity. We very rarely get to hear Dad's opinions. So we want your opinions on all of this, about your parenting style and what influenced you, and
All right. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know any parenting style that I thought I would have before. And when he got here, it was just like, well, I guess we're just gonna go day by day and see what we can do to get him to the next day.
so you just fly by the seat of your pants.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Now, tell me what. I know Caroline said that Duke was pretty much it, and he
Yeah.
was used to attention. Did you have any concerns about him adapting to Decker?
Yeah, I was concerned. I didn't know how he would handle it and if he would get along with him. And I was worried that he's gonna bite him if the baby's too rough with him. But I mean, he's been awesome with him. He lets him use him as a slide and pull on him to stand up, and he moans once in a while, but he's been really good with him.
Good, good. So do you have any friends or family members that influence your parenting style? Whatever that may be.
Friends I had a couple friends that had boys. We all had boys in 2019, so that we've all been kind of texting each other and saying, hey, what do you do with this, or how's this going? But the parents, I mean, it was so long ago, in such a different time, that no, they didn't really have much useful advice for us.
So what kind of books have you read?
I didn't read any books.
None at all.
I read, there's some blogs on Instagram that I would read, just to kind of identify.
Probably more current.
Yeah, identify with some more some dads that had absolutely no idea what they were doing, and they would write like little inspirational stories about things that they had or things that like they went through that they wish they would have done differently, and so that's what I read.
So are you a member of any dad's groups?
No,
No,
I don't. I'm not on Facebook.
Well, I mean, they don't necessarily have to be on Facebook. I know you said you and your friends had,
Yeah, well, that's my dad group.
That's your dad's group.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're nationwide.
Nationwide.
Yeah.
So, Caroline, are you a member of any moms groups?
I am. I joined MOPS in the fall, and I loved it. It was great. It was out of my comfort zone. It's not normally something I would have done, but it was excellent because it got me out of the house. I socialized with other people that were going through the same thing. You could drop your kid off to childcare, or you could keep them with you. He was at an age, I think the one time I did drop him off, he got sick. You probably remember that.
I remember that.
But I kept him with me at the table. He just slept during. Right now they've canceled it, but right now he's at the age where I wouldn't be able to like really take him and have him sit at the table. But it was great, and I really, there was a lot of moms there with that were on their second or third, and just great to have a circle of people, and I could reach out to any of them. The first time he got sick, one of the girls in my group brought me Pedialyte because my husband was out of town and I was by myself, and just to have that, kind of connection and bond with other people going through the same thing is great.
Great. Okay, so Trapper, one last thing for you. What kind of tricks and tips do you have for dads? What would be the one thing that you would say? Well, actually, I have two last things. What would be the one thing that you would say to dads about being a new parent?
Oh, get them sleeping through the night as soon as you can. That's what I tell all the people that are having new kids is get them sleeping. You'll love them a lot more. You'll love everybody a lot more. It's just better.
Just by getting some sleep.
Yeah.
Newborn care specialist.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you recommend a newborn care specialist?
I would. It's not in everybody's budget. But there's helpful schedules that are online that you can find for their different months. And that I think that was helpful too, just so you have something to look at. Like if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, like there's at least a guide for you. So like us, we don't have anybody around to say, hey, what should we be doing?
Or you weren't here during the weekend.
Yeah.
On the weekend, you would have to print them.
Yeah. Or yeah, I wasn't here all week. And then I was alone on the weekend when she would get out of the house for a little bit and I didn't know what to do. I'm never home at 2:00 in the afternoon.
So did you follow the schedule?
Yeah, I followed the schedule. I had no choice.
Well, did you follow the schedule because it was good for your child, or did you follow the schedule because you knew once mom got back and asked you about the schedule?
Both.
Okay.
More because I knew if I didn't follow the schedule, the kid would get me in trouble because she'd know he wasn't on a schedule.
Yes, we can tell when they're not on their schedules. Now, I asked Caroline, is there any advice as a new dad that you would give to a nanny from a perspective of, I'm new at this, I'm a new dad, what can you teach me type deal?
Yeah, I think don't assume we know anything because I didn't. And even like simple stuff that nannies do that you don't think about because you've done it with every client that you've worked with, I don't know. So even if you're explaining like something that you're doing, whether it's day or nighttime, that's going to help me because then I might not pick up on that you're doing something that I wouldn't know to do or things that we should do when you're not there to help. I think it was really, really helpful. And just, I think I heard her talking about new transitions from naps and bottles and different sized nipples. And
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
would've
that's,
been lost.
we don't even know to look that stuff up.
We weren't even heating the bottles right. We weren't taking the stem out of the Dr. Brown's. I didn't know that till Angela came on.
Well, I would like to thank you both. I know it is just about Decker's bedtime, and he's having him a late night snack.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's having some bananas.
Ooh. So I know it's just about his. Wow, that's a big bite.
Oh, it's he's just teething on it.
Oh, it's frozen. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
He has all four teeth coming in at the top at the same time. So
Ooh, poor baby. Poor baby. But yeah, I appreciate you all coming on and being candid with us and telling us about, being new parents, because sometimes it's hard as a new parent when nannies come in and you're like, okay, so let's do this. They change everything around and you're like, okay, so why are we doing this? And then your moms and dads come in and say, well, when you all were little, we did this. Why don't you do that with your child? And then your friends come in and say, well, okay, so, well, my kid, he did this, and your kid's not doing it right. So there's a lot of outside.
Yeah.
There's a lot of outside influences that come in and interfere with being the parent that you want to be, or the parent you felt you wanted to be, but because everybody's looking at you, you're afraid to go left and they want you to go right, but we don't want to do that with our child.
Yeah.
And it can be very intimidating as a new parent. Well, maybe we're not doing it right. So I appreciate you all being honest and being very candid with us, and opening up and sharing little Mr. Decker.
Hopefully we weren't too boring.
He heard
Hopefully
his
you
name.
didn't scream too much.
He's like, yes,
Bye.
but thank you so much
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having
agreeing
us.
to do this for me. I really appreciate you all, and I miss you all.
Say
Yeah,
love
we
you.
miss you too.
Say love you.
Are you all done? Yes.
Well done.
Say it's night time.
All right.
Thank you so
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And we will see you all next week this time. Don't forget to join us for the U.S. Nanny Association tomorrow night. We will be talking about understanding problem behaviors. So join us on the U.S. Nanny Association page for our webinar. It starts at 7 p.m. Central Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will see you all next week. Thanks again.